The wheels of the stagecoach screeched as it rolled to a stop in the dusty little town. Anna gripped her worn leather bag tighter, her knuckles white beneath her gloves. The driver hopped down and opened the door, offering her a hand. She hesitated, then stepped out into the blinding sunlight. Her boots sank into the dry earth, the air filled with the mingled scents of horses, hay, and dust. For a moment she stood still, blinking against the glare, her heart hammering with both hope and dread. She scanned the small crowd gathered near the general store and blacksmiths. Men tipped their hats, women bustled with baskets, children darted underfoot. None looked at her twice, except one man. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a hat pulled low against the sun. His stance was rigid, his eyes sharp and unreadable as they met hers. Relief surged through her. This must be him, Samuel Carter, the rancher who had written her those tender letters, who had promised a home, a future, maybe even love. Anna smoothed her skirt and took a tentative step toward him. "Mr. Carter." Her voice trembled, but she forced a hopeful smile. "It's me, Anna." For a long moment, he said nothing. His gaze traveled over her, measuring, weighing, doubting. Then his jaw tightened, and he shook his head slowly. "I've changed my mind," he muttered. The words were flat, final. Anna blinked, sure she had misheard. I don't understand. We wrote for months. I thought it was what I needed," he cut in, his tone cold. "But it isn't. I don't want this. I don't want you." The world tilted beneath her feet. Heat flushed her face as if the whole town were watching, though no one paid them any mind. She clutched her bag tighter, her throat burning. "But I came all this way," she whispered, the words breaking. "I'm sorry." His apology was hollow, barely audible, before he turned and strode away. Anna stood frozen in the middle of the street, the dust swirling around her skirts. The letters in her satchel, once full of promise, suddenly felt like cruel lies. With every beat of her heart, the truth pressed harder. She was alone, in a strange town, and no one wanted her. The boarding house smelled faintly of boiled cabbage and old wood polish. Its narrow hallways creaked with every footstep, and the faded wallpaper curled at the edges, as though even the walls were tired of holding themselves together. Anna sat on the edge of the narrow bed in her rented room, her travel bag lying open beside her like a wound that wouldn't close. She had unpacked nothing, as though some part of her still believed Samuel Carter would knock on the door, apologize, and tell her he had made a mistake. But the knock never came. At night, the wind whistled through the thin window frame, carrying with it the sounds of horses in the livery, boots on the wooden sidewalks, laughter spilling from the saloon down the street. The world outside went on as if her heartbreak meant nothing. She often sat in the stiff chair by the window, hands folded in her lap, staring at the prairie stretching endlessly into the horizon. It seemed so vast, so merciless, swallowing her hopes whole. Her savings dwindled with each week she stayed. Coins that had once felt like a lifeline now slipped through her fingers with terrifying speed. She had enough for meals at the boarding house table, thin stews, hard bread, bitter coffee, but not much more. Each night she counted the coins, and each night she feared the day they would run out. In town, she felt the sting of eyes on her. Women glanced at her with a mixture of pity and scorn, whispering behind gloved hands. Men eyed her with curiosity, some with mockery. "Mail-order bride," she overheard more than once, the words sliding through the air like a knife. She wondered if they pitied her more for being unwanted or mocked her for daring to hope she might be loved. Still, somewhere beneath the shame and ache, a small, stubborn flame refused to die. She told herself she had crossed an ocean of prairie, left everything she knew, because she believed in more than loneliness. She would not, could not, let this be the end of her story. Yet in the quiet hours before dawn, when the weight of silence pressed hardest, Anna felt that spark flicker, and she wondered how long she could keep it alive in a place where no one seemed to want her. It was late afternoon when Anna finally forced herself from her room and into town. The mercantile bell jingled faintly as she stepped out, her small parcel of flour tucked against her chest. The air was thick with the scent of dust and sun-warmed wood, and a faint breeze carried the laughter of children playing nearby. Anna pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders, wishing herself invisible. She longed to blend into the rhythm of this town, yet felt forever apart from it. As she walked past the water trough outside the store, she felt a sudden tug at her skirt. Startled, she glanced down. A pair of wide brown eyes looked up at her, soft, curious, and shining beneath a fringe of dark lashes. The little girl couldn't have been more than 6 or 7. Her hair, tied with a faded blue ribbon, spilled in unruly waves down her back. "Miss," the child said in a small but steady voice, "are you lost too?" The words struck Anna like a bell tolling in her chest. She crouched slowly, balancing her parcel against her hip, and met the girl's gaze. "Lost," Anna echoed softly, a faint smile tugging at her lips despite the ache in her heart. "Why would you think I'm lost?" The girl tilted her head, serious in a way that felt far older than her years. "You look like you're looking for something. My pa says I look the same, sometimes. Since Mama went to heaven." Anna's throat tightened. She searched for words, finding only a whisper. "Maybe I am a little lost." The girl's eyes softened, as though she understood more than most adults ever could. "I'm Lucy," she said, offering her hand with solemn formality. Anna took it gently, her heart stirring in a way it hadn't in weeks. "I'm Anna. It's very nice to meet you, Lucy." Lucy's small fingers curled around hers, warm and sure. "You can sit with me if you get tired," she offered, as though it were the most natural thing in the world. Anna chuckled softly, though tears pricked at her eyes. In this tiny stranger's simple kindness, she felt the first fragile thread of belonging. For the first time since stepping off the stagecoach, she didn't feel entirely invisible. The prairie sky burned with streaks of orange and rose as the sun slipped lower, bathing the town in a warm glow. Anna and Lucy sat together on the wooden steps outside the small white church, their skirts brushing against one another. Lucy held a wildflower she had plucked from the field, twirling it between her little fingers. "You said where you come from. There are big rivers," Lucy said thoughtfully, her gaze fixed on the flower. "Are they bigger than the one by my papa's ranch?" "Much bigger," Anna answered with a soft smile. "Some so wide, you can't see the other side. And boats travel up and down them, carrying people and goods." Lucy's eyes widened with wonder. "That sounds like magic." For a long moment, they sat in companionable silence. The cool evening breeze teased loose strands of Anna's hair, and she found herself breathing easier than she had in weeks. Something about Lucy's presence softened the sharp edges of her loneliness. Then Lucy leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper, fragile as a secret. "Miss Anna, can you be my mommy?" The words struck Anna so hard she felt her breath catch. She turned to look at the child, startled. Lucy's brown eyes shimmered with unshed tears, yet her expression was steady, almost pleading. "Oh, sweetheart," Anna's voice broke as she reached out, brushing a stray curl from Lucy's cheek. "That's a very big question. But I don't got a mama anymore," Lucy said simply, her lip trembling. "I try not to cry about it, but sometimes it hurts too much. When you talk to me, it doesn't hurt so bad." Tears welled in Anna's eyes. She swallowed hard, her heart twisting at the innocence and honesty in the little girl's words. For so long, Anna had believed she was unwanted, discarded before she had even been given a chance. Yet here was this child, pure, unguarded, asking her for the one thing Anna had always yearned to give: love. Anna pulled Lucy into her arms, holding her close against her chest. "I don't know if I can be your mama," she whispered, her tears falling into the girl's hair. "But I promise, I'll always be here for you." Lucy's small arms wrapped tightly around her neck, and in that embrace Anna felt something shift. For the first time since her journey began, she belonged, not because of a promise from a man, but because a child's heart had chosen her. The knock on Anna's boarding house door came just after sundown, sharp and insistent. She set aside her sewing and opened it cautiously. There he stood, John Miller, Lucy's father. He filled the doorway with his tall frame, his hat pulled low, his face hard as weathered stone. "Even in, miss," he said curtly. His voice carried the rough edge of a man unaccustomed to pleasantries. "Mind if I come in?" Anna hesitated, then stepped aside. He entered, glancing around the modest room, his gaze cool and assessing. Finally, he turned to face her, arms crossed. "I hear you've been spending a lot of time with my Lucy." Anna clasped her hands before her, steadying her breath. "She comes to find me. I didn't mean to intrude." His brow furrowed. "She's a child. Children get attached easy. But she don't need false promises. She's lost her mama already, I won't let her get hurt again." Anna's chest tightened. "I would never hurt her." "You might not mean to," John said, his voice sharp, "but folks drift in and out of towns like this. Maybe you'll pack up and leave when your money runs dry. What happens then?" She'll be left wanting what she can't have. Anna swallowed, meeting his gaze firmly. I didn't ask Lucy to seek me out. But she did. And she asked me for something no child should have to beg for, a mother's love. Her voice softened. I can't give her back the mother she lost, but I can give her kindness. Isn't that better than letting her feel alone? For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy as stone. John's jaw worked, his eyes shadowed with something deeper than anger, fear. You don't understand, he said, his tone rougher now. Every time Lucy smiles at someone new, I worry they'll be taken away. I can't watch her lose again. Anna's throat tightened with tears she refused to let fall. She stepped closer, her voice quiet but steady. Then maybe don't see me as someone who'll leave. See me as someone who chose to stay, even when no one wanted me here. John's eyes flickered, his guarded expression faltering for the briefest heartbeat. He tipped his hat low, muttered a gruff, "Good night," and left her standing in the stillness. Anna sank onto the edge of her bed, her pulse racing. For the first time, she had seen a crack in his armor, and she wondered what it might mean. Autumn had settled over the prairie, painting the fields in russet and gold. The air held the crisp bite of approaching winter, and every evening the townsfolk hurried home before the chill deepened. Anna, however, found warmth in the laughter of children at the small schoolhouse where she now taught. It had begun as a simple arrangement, helping a few youngsters learn their letters, but soon the benches filled with eager faces. Even the townspeople who once whispered behind her back now greeted her with nods of respect. And always, Lucy was there, her hand slipping into Anna's as if it belonged there. Together they walked home at dusk, Lucy chattering about her day, Anna listening with a heart fuller than she ever thought possible. One evening, as they reached the Miller Ranch, Lucy ran ahead, her ribboned hair bouncing in the fading light. Anna lingered near the gate, suddenly unsure if she was welcome to follow. John stood on the porch, arms folded, watching them both. His expression, as always, was unreadable. "You've done something I couldn't," he said at last, his voice carrying across the quiet yard. Anna blinked. "I beg your pardon." He descended the steps, his boots crunching against the gravel. "I've tried for 2 years to bring the light back to that little girl's eyes. Never could. But you come along, and she laughs again. Smiles like her mama never left." His voice faltered, just for a moment, and he looked away as though ashamed of the crack in his armor. Anna's breath caught. "I never meant to take your place," she said softly. John met her gaze then, his own steady but gentler than before. "You didn't. You gave her something I couldn't. Maybe something I needed too." The silence between them was no longer heavy, but full of possibility. Behind them, Lucy called out, "Papa, Miss Anna. Come inside. Supper's ready." John's mouth twitched into the faintest smile. He extended a hand toward her, rough and calloused, yet offered with quiet sincerity. "You comin'?" Anna looked at his hand, then at the little girl waiting on the porch. For the first time since stepping off the stagecoach, she felt wanted, not as a mail-order bride, not as a burden, but as part of something whole. She placed her hand in his, her heart steady. "Yes," she whispered. "I'm coming home."